When I agreed to let my little brother's best friend sleep over for the weekend, I thought nothing of it. I was 24, living in a small 2-bedroom rental near campus while I finished grad school. My little brother Evan was still a high school senior, and his friend Jamie was practically a fixture in our house back when I lived with our parents. They were inseparable since middle school, like puppies, always bouncing off the walls, raiding the fridge, playing Xbox too loud. So when Evan texted me last Thursday, saying he and Jamie were going to be in town for a college tour and needed a place to crash for a night or two, I figured, why not? It'd be nostalgic. Besides, I hadn't seen Jamie in over a year. I barely remembered what he looked like, just that he was shorter than Evan, and used to wear those awful skate shoes with mismatched laces. In my mind, he was still that awkward 15-year-old with braces and too much energy. That was not who showed up at my door Friday night. "Yo!" Evan shouted, dragging in a duffel bag like he owned the place. I gave him a one-armed hug, but my eyes were already drifting past him. And that's when I saw Jamie. He had changed. Completely. Taller now, maybe even a hair taller than me, with messy, dark blonde hair that fell just above his eyes, sharp jawline, and a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. He gave me a shy smile, one hand gripping the strap of his backpack. "Hey, man," he said. His voice was deeper than I remembered. "Thanks for letting me stay." "Yeah, of course," I managed, trying to mask my surprise. "You've grown up," Jamie smirked. "So have you." Evan, oblivious to whatever weird electricity had sparked between us in that split second, was already dumping snacks on the kitchen counter. That night passed in a blur of junk food, Mario Kart, and bad YouTube videos. Evan eventually passed out on the couch sometime after midnight, leaving just me and Jamie, finishing off the last of the chips. "You don't mind if I crash in your room, right?" Jamie asked, voice casual. I blinked. "My room? Couch is small. Evan's already snoring like a chainsaw. I'll take the floor, promise." I hesitated, but it was late, and I didn't want to make it weird. "Nah, it's fine. You can take the bed. I'll sleep on the other side." Jamie followed me into the room, quiet and deliberate. We didn't talk much after that. Just got ready in silence, both of us turning our backs as we undressed. I slid under the covers first. Jamie followed a minute later. I kept a careful space between us, pretending to scroll through my phone even though my heart was pounding way too fast for no reason. Eventually, the room settled into darkness. I don't know how long I lay there, tossing and turning, trying to ignore the heat radiating from his side of the bed. Trying to convince myself this was just a sleepover. Nothing weird. I must have drifted off at some point. But something woke me. A presence. I felt it before I opened my eyes. This low, steady awareness that I wasn't alone in the way you can feel someone looking at you. When I cracked my eyes open, it was dark. Only the faint blue glow from the streetlights outside filtered through the blinds. And there he was. Jamie, sitting up, watching me. I didn't move, didn't even breathe. His eyes were locked on my face, focused, soft, almost like he was studying me. His posture was tense, like he'd been holding perfectly still for a long time. I should have said something, should have cleared my throat, rolled over, called him out, but I didn't. I kept still. He didn't notice I was awake. Or maybe he did, but didn't care. And then his gaze dropped. From my face, down my chest, pausing, lingering, before drifting lower beneath the blanket. My breath caught. And Jamie's lips parted, just slightly. I lay frozen under the covers, my breathing shallow, heart pounding so loudly I was scared he'd hear it. Jamie's eyes were still on me, dark and unreadable in the dim light, like he was weighing something silently in his head. I couldn't tell if this was some half-awake moment, sleepwalking maybe, or if he was fully conscious of what he was doing. And then he moved, just a little. His hand shifted on the blanket, fingertips brushing the edge near my waist. I felt a soft tug of fabric as it tightened slightly across my stomach. That was when something in me snapped. I stirred, just enough to make it clear I was awake, but not enough to startle him. My eyes opened a little wider, just enough to catch the exact moment his gaze darted up and met mine. He froze, like a deer in headlights. His mouth opened, probably to apologize, to lie, to say something like, "Oh, I thought you were someone else." But nothing came out. Instead, we just stared at each other. His hand was still resting on the blanket, still just inches away from me. The air between us was thick, humming with something I couldn't name. "Jamie," I said quietly. His lips parted again, but his voice cracked before any words formed. I didn't mean, you were watching me." He flinched, looked away. "Yeah," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "I was." The honesty hit me harder than I expected. He wasn't laughing it off. He wasn't pretending it didn't happen. He just sat there, shoulders tight, hands clenched, like he was waiting for me to tell him to get out. "I didn't think you'd wake up," he added, eyes still downcast. "I swear I wasn't gonna touch you or anything. I just couldn't sleep." "Bullshit," I said, but my voice was weirdly calm. "You weren't just staring at the ceiling." Jamie let out a breath. Frustrated, embarrassed. "I've had a thing for you since before I even knew what that meant," he said suddenly. "Back when I used to come over with Evan, when I was like 15. You'd walk in from soccer practice or whatever, and I'd get so nervous I couldn't even look at you." That caught me off guard. I blinked. "You were a kid." "So were you," he snapped a little too quickly. "And now I'm not. I'm 18. I know what I want. And yeah, maybe I should have just kept pretending like I didn't feel it. But being in your bed, this close?" I couldn't stop myself. Silence stretched between us. I sat up slowly, the blanket falling to my waist. Jamie's eyes flicked down before he forced himself to look away again, jaw clenched. "So what now?" I asked. He looked at me finally. "You tell me." "I don't think you came in here just because Evan was snoring too loud." "No," he admitted. "I didn't." My next words surprised even me. "You ever done anything with a guy?" Jamie hesitated, then shook his head. "No, just thought about it. About you, a lot." Something about the way he said it, soft, vulnerable, like he hated even admitting it, made my chest tighten. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. There was no script for this. No instruction manual for catching your little brother's best friend watching you sleep like he was trying to memorize you. And yet, for some reason, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even uncomfortable. I was curious. "Lie down," I said finally. Jamie's eyes widened. "I'm not gonna touch you," I added quickly. "Just lie down." He hesitated for a moment, then slowly slid under the blanket beside me. He kept his body stiff, like he was afraid to move too close. We lay there in silence for what felt like a long time. I could feel the heat of him beside me, the tension radiating off his skin. "Why me?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, "Because you were always the one I looked at when I didn't think anyone was watching." My breath caught. "Even when I was just the annoying kid in your living room," he added. "You made me feel something, like I mattered." That did something to me. Because I remembered those years. I remembered walking in from school and seeing him there, all legs and nerves, trying too hard to act cool. I just never thought he was looking at me the way I now realized I might have been looking at him too. Without thinking, I turned toward him. He was already looking at me. This time, I didn't look away. It's hard to describe that kind of silence. The kind that's not empty, but full. So full it's practically humming. Our room wasn't quiet. It was charged. Like the air between us had taken on a weight. Like it was about to collapse if either of us moved an inch closer. But Jamie didn't move. Neither did I. We just stared at each other, lying side by side in that small bed, the hum of the ceiling fan spinning lazily above us. His eyes were wide open now. No more secrets, no pretending, just that unspoken look like he was trying to memorize the moment. "I shouldn't have watched you like that," he said after a while, barely audible. "It was messed up. But you did." He flinched. "Yeah." I didn't say anything else. I didn't have to. I just kept watching him, letting the silence wrap around us again like a second blanket. "Are you gonna tell Evan?" he asked suddenly. That made me pause. Evan, my little brother, his best friend. The reason Jamie was even in my house in the first place. I hadn't even thought about that yet. But now the name hung in the air like a warning sign. "No," I said finally. "I'm not gonna say anything." Jamie exhaled, clearly relieved. "I don't want to mess things up between you two," I added. "But you need to understand this isn't simple." He nodded. "I know. You're 18. He smirked faintly. "Barely. A whole 3 months into adulthood." I gave him a look, and he rolled onto his back, hands behind his head. "I know it's messy," he said. "I didn't expect anything. I really didn't. But I'm not gonna lie. I hoped, just a little. And if I hadn't woken up, I would have gone back to sleep eventually. Probably hated myself in the morning." That struck a nerve. There was something painfully honest about it. "Don't," I said. He turned his head. "Don't what?" "Hate yourself." Jamie didn't respond right away, just stared at the ceiling like he was trying to make sense of all this. Then, without turning to face me, he said something that caught me completely off guard. "You're the first guy, the first ever thought about like this." My chest tightened. It wasn't the confession itself. It was the way he said it. So matter of fact, so quiet, like it hurt to admit. "I didn't plan for this," he added. "Didn't even want to feel this way. But every time Evan brought me around, I looked for you, waited for you to come home, watched the driveway like some loser. I couldn't help but smile, just barely." "You're not a loser," he laughed softly. "Try telling 15-year-old me that." I sat up slowly, rubbing my eyes, trying to untangle everything I was feeling. Because truth be told, I didn't hate this. Not even a little. What scared me more was that I wanted something to come out of this. I wanted to keep talking, keep listening, keep lying next to him in the dark like this was somehow okay. "Jamie." He turned back toward me, eyes searching mine. I hesitated, then reached out. Just a hand, resting gently on his arm. His breath caught. "I don't know what this is," I said, "or where it's going, but I'm not kicking you out." "Yeah? Yeah." His face softened. "Good. Cause your bed's way comfier than Evan's floor." That made me laugh, quiet and involuntary. The tension eased just a little. "Get some sleep," I said. "We'll talk in the morning." "Promise?" "I promise." He nodded, turned onto his side again, this time facing me, much closer than before. I didn't stop him. And just before my eyes closed, I felt his fingers brush lightly against mine. Barely there, but definitely there. I woke up before my alarm, that weird gray hour when the sun's just starting to sneak through the blinds. For a few seconds, I forgot where I was, why my heart was beating so fast. Then I rolled my head and saw Jamie lying there. Still asleep, facing me this time. One hand tucked under his cheek, his mouth parted slightly, hair falling into his eyes. In the quiet light of morning, he looked nothing like the awkward kid I remembered. He looked older, almost peaceful, vulnerable in a way that made something inside me ache. I didn't move, didn't want to wake him, just lay there, watching him breathe. That's when it hit me. I was the one watching him sleep now, and I didn't know what that said about me. His fingers were still brushing mine where they drifted in the night. It wasn't a grip, just a ghost of contact, but it sent a little pulse of warmth up my arm. I should have pulled away. I didn't. Instead, I let my eyes trace the freckles on his nose, the faint stubble on his jaw, the way his chest rose and fell under the thin blanket. I felt that same nervous flutter I'd felt last night when I caught him watching me, but now it was laced with something softer, something almost protective. He stirred then, eyelashes flickering, his eyes opened slowly, still heavy with sleep. When he realized I was awake, his whole body tensed. "Oh," he whispered, voice hoarse. "You're up." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Couldn't sleep." He swallowed hard. Did I do anything?" While I was asleep? No, I shook my head. We just slept. He let out a breath, shoulders relaxing. Okay, good. We lay there like that for a while, both staring at the ceiling, neither sure how to start. It wasn't awkward exactly. It was just delicate. You didn't kick me out, he said finally. No, I said. I told you I wouldn't. Jamie rolled onto his back, eyes on the ceiling. You probably should have. Maybe, I paused, but I didn't want to. That made him turn his head toward me, eyes searching mine. There was no cockiness in his expression now, no teenage bravado, just a kind of raw honesty that made my stomach twist. I've never told anyone, he said. Not even Evan, I nodded. I won't say anything. I know. He looked down at our hands, still almost touching. Last night, was that okay? I mean, I crossed a line. You were honest, I said. That's more than most people can say. He smiled faintly, then let it fade. You're too good about this, I shrugged. Maybe I'm just trying to figure it out, same as you. Silence again. Then he asked, very quietly, Are you mad at me? I thought about it. No. Creeped out? I shook my head. No. Then what? He whispered. I turned onto my side to face him. He mirrored me, eyes wide, just a few inches between us now. I don't know, I admitted. I'm curious. Jamie's lips parted, like he wanted to say something but didn't dare. I could see the pulse beating at the base of his throat. He looked terrified and hopeful all at once. I'm not gonna do anything, he said. I don't want you to feel pressured. I know. My voice was softer than I expected. But you're not the only one who's been thinking. His breath caught. Wait, you? I'm saying... I took a breath. It's not just one-sided. We stayed like that, staring at each other, our words hanging in the air like smoke. Outside, a car door slammed somewhere on the street. A dog barked. The world was waking up, but in that room it still felt like time had slowed. Jamie reached out, hesitant, trembling, and this time, instead of hovering, his fingers brushed mine properly. Just a touch, nothing more. I didn't pull away. Jamie's fingers stayed lightly against mine. Not a grab, not even a hold. Just contact, like he was waiting for me to flinch, like the smallest movement from me would send him retreating. I didn't flinch. We just stayed there, lying face to face, his greenish-brown eyes flicking between mine. His thumb twitched, grazing my skin by accident. That tiny motion sent a jolt through me that felt wildly out of proportion to what had actually happened. Sorry, he murmured, starting to pull back. I caught his hand, not tightly, just enough to stop him. Don't! His breath hitched. You sure? I nodded slowly. Yeah. Something in his face shifted, like relief, like disbelief. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. I don't know what to do, he admitted. Neither do I said honestly, but maybe we don't have to figure it out right now. We stayed quiet again. The blinds were glowing pale with early morning light, casting stripes across his face. His hair was a mess. His eyes were soft, almost scared. In that moment, he didn't look like a stranger or my brother's friend, or even the kid I used to know. He just looked human, close, real. I was afraid you'd hate me, he whispered. I don't. You should. Maybe. I gave a small, humorless smile. But I don't. Jamie stared at me for a long moment, his breathing uneven. I'm not just curious, he said finally. I like you. Not just for last night. I've liked you for years. I let his words sink in. The honesty, the way his voice trembled. It made something twist in my chest. Guilt, maybe. Or something warmer. Because deep down, I couldn't deny I liked the way it felt to be wanted like that. You don't even know me anymore, I said quietly. I know enough. He gave a tiny, shaky laugh. I know you still chew your lip when you're thinking. I know you make coffee before you brush your teeth. I know you always pick the red Mario Kart car. And I know you're kind. You've always been kind. I looked at him, startled. Those were small, almost invisible details. I hadn't even realized anyone noticed them, let alone him. You've been paying attention, I murmured. Always, he said. The weight of his gaze made my heart race. My hand was still on his. He hadn't moved closer, but I could feel the tension in his body, like he was holding himself back with sheer willpower. What happens now? He asked softly. Do I just pretend last night didn't happen? Go back to being Evan's friend? Sleep on the couch next time? I don't know, I admitted. But I know I don't want to pretend you're a stranger anymore. His eyes widened a little at that. You mean, I'm not mad at you. I'm not creeped out. And maybe, I hesitated. Maybe I'm a little curious too. Jamie exhaled shakily, a sound halfway between a laugh and a sigh of relief. He rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling, but our fingers stayed linked. I'm scared, he said after a moment. Me too. He turned his head again. You're not just saying that? No. He studied my face for a long second. Then, what do we do? I squeezed his hand lightly. We go slow, we don't hide, we don't sneak, and we don't do anything we'll regret. Jamie nodded, his eyes glistening in the dim light. Okay. We stayed like that, hands barely entwined, not talking. Outside, a bird started singing. The smell of coffee drifted faintly from the kitchen where the timer had started the pot. It was morning now. A real morning. And for the first time since I'd opened my eyes in the middle of the night and caught him watching me, I didn't feel confused. I felt awake. Jamie shifted a little closer. Not touching, just closing the space between us. You're shaking, he whispered. I know, I whispered back. And then, for a long time, neither of us said anything. By the time we finally got out of bed, the sun was high and sharp through the windows, casting long rectangles of light across the hardwood floors. Jamie trailed behind me down the hallway, quiet, barefoot, hoodie half zipped over a plain white t-shirt. We didn't touch again, not once, but we didn't pull apart either. The kitchen felt different now, smaller somehow. I poured coffee while Jamie leaned against the counter, arms crossed, pretending not to stare at me every time I looked away. Neither of us said anything for the first few minutes. The hum of the fridge filled the silence like static. You want eggs or something? I asked, my voice almost too normal. Jamie gave a small shrug. Yeah, sure, whatever you're having. I nodded, grabbing a pan, trying to act like this was just a regular morning, like I hadn't caught him watching me sleep, like we hadn't had a hand-holding conversation that felt more intimate than anything I'd done in years. You always this quiet in the morning? I asked after a minute, cracking eggs. Jamie gave a breathy laugh. No, just trying not to say something stupid. That's a first, he snorted. Wow, okay. I glanced at him, smiling just slightly. He smiled back, and for a second, things felt easy again. But then his expression shifted. He straightened a little, serious now. What are you gonna tell Evan? The question hit like a cold splash of water. I set the spatula down, letting the eggs sizzle. I'm not telling him anything. Jamie looked away, his jaw tight. He's gonna know something's up. I suck at hiding shit. I'll handle it. He gave me a skeptical look. You're not the one who's been his best friend since 6th grade. I know that, I said, but I'm the one he'd punch first. Jamie chuckled under his breath. He wouldn't punch you. You sure about that? He hesitated. No. We stood there in the quiet again. The smell of eggs filling the kitchen. I plated them, pushed one across the counter toward him, and he took it without saying thanks. Just gave me this look like he didn't know what to do with himself. I keep thinking this is some dream, he muttered. It's not. I know, but it feels like it. I leaned back against the counter next to him. Same. He pushed his fork through the eggs, not really eating. I was scared you'd tell me to leave. Or, worse, laugh. I don't know. I didn't. No, you didn't. He finally looked at me, and something flickered in his expression. Like gratitude or relief, or both. I cleared my throat. What happens when you go back? You and Evan start college visits again, you stay at other people's houses, and this just, what? Stays here? Jamie didn't answer right away. I don't want this to be a one-time thing. I looked at him carefully. This? You, he said. I don't want you to be a one-time thing. That caught me off guard. Jamie ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. I know it's messy. I know you're older and I'm his best friend and none of this makes sense, but I don't care. I'd rather deal with complicated than pretend this didn't happen. You're really all in already, huh? He gave a small smile. Been all in since I was 16. That shut me up. He pushed his plate away and took a step closer, lowering his voice. I don't expect you to know what you want. Or even want this, he said, motioning between us. But I'm not gonna lie and pretend I don't. I searched his face. He wasn't bluffing, wasn't playing games. He was scared, but serious. I should have said something smart, something protective or mature or responsible. But instead, I said the thing I wasn't supposed to say. I want this too. His breath caught. Then came a sound, keys in the front door. Jamie and I both froze. A second later, Evan's voice echoed down the hall. Yo, hope you two aren't still passed out. Wait till you hear what just happened. We looked at each other, panic flashing across both our faces. Jamie opened his mouth. Don't, I said quickly, stepping back. Act normal. And just like that, whatever was happening between us vanished behind a paper-thin mask of casual. Evan walked into the kitchen, hair messy, hoodie half off his shoulder. Dude, you would not believe. He stopped, frowning slightly. Why do you two look like you got caught committing a crime? I raised my coffee. Just hungry. Eggs? Jamie didn't say a word, and Evan, thank God, didn't press. Not yet. Evan grabbed a fork and started eating off Jamie's plate like he'd done it 1,000 times. Jamie didn't even blink, just slid the dish over without a word. I watched them, two best friends since forever, laughing like nothing was different, except everything was. I sat at the edge of my chair, gripping my mug a little too tight. So, Evan said through a mouthful of egg, Jamie says you didn't snore last night. Miracle. Jamie shot me a quick glance, subtle, then looked back at Evan with a fake laugh. Guess I was too dead to notice, I tried to smirk. That couch will kill your spine. Right? Evan said. I'm shocked it didn't collapse under him. That thing's older than me. Jamie smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. It was like we were all in a play. 3 characters reading from a script we hadn't rehearsed enough. Evan was in his own world, talking about his girlfriend, their stupid fight, how he almost drove to her place at 2 a.m., but I barely registered it. I was watching Jamie, watching his every twitch, every blink, every barely concealed exhale, and I could feel it. Evan wasn't completely buying it. His gaze shifted back and forth between us one too many times. He squinted when we both answered too quickly, paused when we said the same thing at the same time, tilted his head like he was testing a theory. Then came the moment I knew we were in trouble. So, Jamie, he said casually, you sleep okay in the guest room? Jamie blinked. I froze. Evan smirked, like a cat watching 2 mice try not to squeak. Just wondering. I heard creaking in the hallway around 3, thought maybe the couch sucked that bad. Jamie glanced at me. I kept my face neutral, calm, unbothered. Yeah, Jamie said slowly. I woke up thirsty. Got water. Evan raised an eyebrow. From my bathroom? I didn't want to turn on the kitchen lights. Right. Evan popped another piece of toast in his mouth, chewing like he was solving a puzzle. Cool. The tension in the room was suffocating. Jamie looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. I tried not to sweat through my shirt. Evan leaned back in his chair, stretching. Well, I guess it's good you're both rested, because I need help packing up the car. What car? I asked, too quickly. He pointed his fork at Jamie. I forgot to tell you, Lauren called. Wants me to stay with her tonight, which means I'm bailing on the rest of the college tour weekend. Jamie blinked. Wait, so you're not staying here tonight? Nope. You still can if you want, but you're on your own, Evan grinned. Don't keep my brother up too late. That line hit differently than he probably meant it. Jamie glanced at me. I kept my face blank. Evan stood up, grabbed his hoodie. Be back tomorrow, don't do anything stupid. And just like that, he was gone. The front door shut with a heavy click. The silence that followed was deafening. Jamie exhaled hard. He knows. I shook my head. He suspects. That's not the same. He's not an idiot. No, I said, but he also doesn't have proof. Jamie sat down again, rubbing his temples. This is a disaster. It's only a disaster if we make it one. He looked up. So what do we do now? I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I didn't know. That night, the house was quiet in a way that felt unnatural. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, it listens, waits, reminds you of every little thing you're trying not to think about. Evan was gone. Jamie wasn't. I'd made us dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. He barely touched his plate. We tried watching a movie, something light and stupid, but neither of us laughed at the right parts. Eventually, we just gave up. It was around 11 when he followed me down the hall. We didn't say anything. He didn't ask where he was sleeping. I didn't offer the couch. We both knew. In the bedroom, I clicked off a lamp, leaving just the streetlight glow filtering in through the blinds. Jamie pulled his hoodie off, kicked off his socks, climbed under the covers like he'd done it 100 times. I slid in next to him, the mattress shifting beneath us. We lay there in the dark, not touching, until I turned. Jamie, I said, voice barely a whisper. He rolled toward me, close now, eyes hard to read. I've been thinking, I said, about last night, about this. Yeah? Yeah. And I'm not saying I know where this goes, but I know how I felt when I caught you watching me. He tensed. Look, No, listen. I cut him off. I wasn't mad. I should have been. But I wasn't. Because I wasn't scared. I wasn't uncomfortable. I was, I don't know, seen. He swallowed, his throat bobbing in the low light. And maybe that's not fair to say. Maybe it's messy. But when you looked at me, it felt like, for the first time in a long time, someone really saw me. Jamie didn't say anything, just stared at me like I'd pulled something out of his chest and held it up to the light. I kept going. So now I'm watching you, I said. And yeah, it's weird, it's wild, but it doesn't feel wrong. He let out a slow, shaky breath. You're not gonna disappear in the morning? He asked, voice cracking slightly. No, I said. You? He smiled, just a little. Not unless you kick me out. Not gonna happen. A long pause. Then, carefully, he reached for my hand again, same as before. Gentle, slow, like he was testing the space between us. This time, I met him halfway. We lay like that for a while, hands tangled under the blanket. No rush. No heat, just contact. Skin to skin, honest and simple. Eventually, he spoke. I used to dream about this, he said, so quietly I almost missed it. I turned my head. About holding my hand? No. He laughed softly. About you knowing, about me not having to pretend. I didn't answer, just gave his hand a small squeeze. And when I fell asleep that night, it was to the sound of Jamie's breathing. Slow, steady, warm against my shoulder. And this time, I was the one watching him.